Hey, it's Dr. Professor. It's our time for the show. Hang on, let me get everything ready here. We will start with a few of the issues and things that just came up. Let's see here. eBay did send out letters for apologies for those of you who did have issues. eBay did confirm as of this morning, or I think yesterday is when they started sending the notices out, that it was only the listings that had good till canceled that were affected for the most part. From everything that I can see, the email that I got with the apology from eBay literally stated that. And then they actually gave us several hundred free listings to compensate us for the issues that did happen last month. Again, you all should have a apology letter if you had any issues or any lost photos. They did acknowledge in the email that the photos are gone for good. So you are not getting your photos back as per eBay. But again, they did apologize and they did comp you, or comped us anyway. And I'm sure they're going to comp everybody else for a couple hundred listings right off the bat. So I'm fine with what happened. I'm fine with them giving us free listings. I've already used them all, honestly, with all the relists that we have. So again, they did apologize. They did try and take care of it. Yeah, should they have said something sooner and addressed the issue sooner? Yes. But I would have rather had them fix the issue than worry about apologizing right off the bat, because the issue wasn't a huge issue for most people. And most people by next month aren't even going to be thinking about the issue. But let's just hop on to say hi to everybody. Welcome, Macaroni May, Diane, Tom Markham, and Scott Sims. Let's see here. I'm going to just go over some of my information on the sheet, and then I'm going to address some other issues here too. Sales-wise, now I just had a video out, the eBay apocalypse. I really think that a lot of people have dumped off. I've been looking at, over and over again, looking at the sales and such forth, and I think that's what's going on with eBay. But on that same note, we've been selling a heck of a lot on Amazon. I sold 7 items on Amazon this morning, which for a summer, it was a big day for just Amazon, and I had to figure out how to even send something because we had a couple Canadian sales, which I just logged in and I just set that up just the other day. And then boom, I sold a Halloween item actually to Canada. It was a Jack Skellington coffee pot that we had. But the sales have just been up, and I'm not sure how to say why sales are up on Amazon, because it's been 3 weeks now of Amazon sales getting close to my eBay sales in one of my accounts already, which doesn't happen a lot. And another area that I've been looking into are 78 records. For those of you who welcome everybody else, welcome Linda Carrier and Rich Sanders. Some of the areas that, I sell, and everybody knows if they watch my videos, I do a lot of records and a ton of 78s. 78 records are gone through the roof. I don't know what's going on with 78s. I sold 7 this morning, or 8 this morning. Yeah, 8 this morning. And we had a bunch I had to pack up. The mailman's probably going to hate me after this last week here, because we've had a lot of big boxes of records going out too. So anyway, I don't know what is really up with that. No idea why 78s are selling all of a sudden. Just out of nowhere, I've been selling a lot. Half of them are on Amazon. The better ones are going on Amazon now. And some other things that I looked at when I was trying to track down the sales history versus, last year versus, this year, and why we're up and looking into it. I went back and looked at postcards over the last 5 years, not just mine, but some of the historical information that I found, and some sites that track, top sales of the year and things like that. Postcard sales, the pricing of what postcards have gone for, has went up 10 to 20% for the last 5 years, every single year in a row. Now, that's bona fide information. That's not something that I'm just drawing from my hat. You can look it up on other sites. You can look at what the top sellers were for many years in a row. Postcard prices are gone through the roof lately. 2 years ago, the highest price postcard was $1,200. They're dwarfed now in the $1,700, $1,800. I've seen $2,000. This is just on eBay, and that's not counting, the highest price one ever sold. I know they're working on some other things. I'd like to call out a call to Katie Macaroni May here. I called out something last week on my last week's show. I wanted to see if anybody was paying attention. Katie was the first one to answer, and she gave me the information on the highest price postcard, the highest price ever sold. Now, I thought somebody wouldn't be able to track down the one I'm looking for, she found one that just sold within the last week or so. It was this month, and it sold for $188,000 for one single postcard that had a drawing of Picasso on there. Now, I hadn't seen this one, so she topped the last one. This is a new all-time record. You can look at other areas to find records, but they're all wrong. Guinness Book of World Records lists the highest priced postcard in the $27,000 range. And just the two Babe Ruth ones alone dwarf that one. So 188,000 is the new mark for the highest price ever sold for any postcard in history. That's just for one single postcard. Now, there's obviously other ones. The one that I was talking about was in the $160,000 range. And I'm not going to say what it is now because I may use that in the future. But Katie just is going to get a card with some artwork on the back, hand-drawn by me, sending it out for free. She's already passed on her mailing address, so that's going out first thing in tomorrow's mail. So it's on me. It's free. No hitches to it. But if I call something out, the first one that gets it, I do have an email address on the About Me page on my channel. So keep it to things related to the channel. If you need pricing or something like that, go to my Facebook page, which is the Auction Professor on Facebook as well, too. So if you need anything like that, I will not open any links on my email account. So if you send something with the link, it won't get open. So just keep that in mind. A couple other things that I've heard some disgruntledness about are the buy box, eBay working towards the buy box. Now, they're having issues with it. I know they're going to. It's going to happen no matter who's doing it, whether it's eBay or anything else. Amazon had issues in the past when they first started swinging over to it. eBay is working on it. All the issues that I see and everybody's talking about are the exact same issues that happened with the policy changes when they opened up the policy, which we use now. I've got a video coming out on the policy, so I'm going to show you that as well, too. But the policy I use, they fixed the issues. There wasn't a major issue to worry about. I honestly feel that once they get the glitches out of the buy box, that those of you who are selling newer items and wholesale and things like that, retail arbitrage and the whole works, won't have any issues once they get it fully integrated, especially with anything new coming out. It only affects listings that were already up. So if your listing was up and it's going to be switched into a buy box standpoint, you may have some issues temporarily until they get all the glitches out. But again, it's the exact same process that they did for the policies, for your payment policies, your refund policies, return policies, and your shipping policies. It's the same basic setup where they're tying multiple listings into just a few set things. So if they're pulling in hundreds of listings into one single buy box page, you're going to have some issues when different people are using different things to describe the item. So I would not honestly worry about that. I don't think that's a big issue. And as I said, they did fix all the policies that had the same issues related to that. You know, I do have an IT degree. I do know some about what they're doing and how it works and, you know, pulling and having issues like that. They fixed the last one. Yeah, they did have some issues. They should have hollered out and said right immediately what was going on. But, you know, they did shell out some, you know, retribution back to us. You know, they did apologize. Took a month, but they did do it. You know, and honestly, I'm not even worried about it. I haven't worried about it in weeks. You know, once in a blue moon, I've gotten, I think now like 26 auctions without photos or, you know, with just one photo. So, you know, and I've already pulled back most of them, the ones that I found or when somebody asks. I'm not going to search for them anymore. With the few that we must have, it's just not worth my time to look for them. So when somebody asks or there's not something going on with the listing, then I'll go back in and look at them. But let me hop over here. I do have some more notes, but again, congratulations to Katie. I appreciate you paying attention. And I am going to do a video on that postcard and some other high dollar postcards, as well as some photos and some other items that do sell for horrendous amounts of money. I've talked to some folks in my Facebook group. There's one gentleman who got a huge lot of paper, 3,000 items. You know, and he got a huge, he's got probably one of the best hauls I've heard of anybody else getting in a while. So he may have a real score. So there's other people that are finding stuff. It's just going to take you looking. And I know it's out there because every day almost there's 2 or 3 people posting stuff they found. So I do know that you guys are finding it and you do see the value in it. But let's go over to say hi and let's see what we got going on now. If anybody has any questions, I'm already a page down. So welcome, Texas. I've been to Texas many times. Tom, yeah, maybe Amazon's Prime Day could have something to do with it. It's been 2 weeks, though. I don't mess with the Prime. I didn't buy a thing. We bought a TV off of Walmart, believe it or not, a 4K TV the other day. Walmart still beats Amazon on many of those prices, at least on their clearance section. But I don't have a big increase from any of the Amazon, Prime days or anything like that because I'm not a member. I don't do Prime at all for anything. I don't know. Maybe it's just the traffic on there or whatever the case may be. No idea. My stuff sells higher on Amazon. I price everything higher on Amazon than I do on eBay. And usually if it's a high dollar item, it sells quicker on Amazon at the higher price than it does on eBay for less. No idea why, maybe the reputation or something, but I still sell, many items higher on eBay. It just depends. Mostly records sell high dollar on Amazon over eBay any day of the week. But let's go back over here, see what we got. Disney Family 515, how you doing? Larry's Treasures, welcome. Kathy Steele, I've got. Macaroni May, yes, it will be out tomorrow. I've already wrapped. I did a little drawing on the back for you too, so it's all in there. It's a numbered edition. You're going to get a real, nice card. You'll see the quality of it when you get it. I was going to show you some sketches for the next Halloween cards, but I think I may hold off, or I may show it at the end here. I've got a few already, as I said, in-house, and I've got some other ones we're working on that are going to be geared towards Christmas and a mix mash of them. So I've got another half a dozen that I'm working on, and I've probably been putting out one rough sketch a day, just in my free time here and there. It's been pretty busy for us. Wife's got the stomach flu. I've been a little bit out of it too from whatever we ate together. So anyway, let's see what else we got here. Thanks, Diane. Yeah, so you got the greeting cards, $6. That's a good price on a bunch of greeting cards. You already can see one for $35, and that's just one. And just because it's sold, somebody else sold it for $35, you may be able to put $57.50 on that as a bin and sell it for higher than them. All that means is that at some point somebody sold that at that price. I almost always price my stuff higher than the highest one I see in the paper category. Not everything. You have to kind of judge on how many of those sold. If there's only one or two that sold, you can almost always sell it higher than what the list price is on, comps comparatively. And I always do that. I don't care what the case is. Let's see here. Thanks, Scott. I've had a couple of people buy my postcards too. If you want to patronize me, that would be a good way to do it. Again, no requirements whatsoever. I'm going to do these videos either way. I do like sitting here and talking about what I do. It feels more, I guess, businessy. It relieves some of the experiences I used to have and kind of lets me be able to talk and, run kind of like a meeting, which I used to do for most of my life for 25 years. So anyway, glad and thanks, Scott. Rock and roll resale. Yeah, New York's a good place to find stuff too. I have been there as well too. We were there right after 9/11. I did go to the World Trade Center after it did happen. I took the train out there actually from DC. It was like a 4-hour drive or something. I had to go to Philly, so it wasn't too far off. I was delivering some vehicles actually for one of the people that I was working for. But anyway, welcome, Pamela. Good to have you. Been to California. We used to go to Whittier. I worked for Einstein Brothers Bagels for a while, and they did Noah's Bagels, which was out there, and we had a huge plant in Whittier. So I used to get out to Whittier, and I've got a friend who lives in Central City, I think, or something city. I know. I've been out to his place once or twice. Central City, I think maybe it is. He works for one of the entertainment companies out there as well too. Let's see here. Ready to learn. Hang on here. I've got a bunch. I'm trying to catch up now. OMFUG. I'm going to try and pronounce that. If you're talking about like Disney postcards, most of the Disney postcards aren't advertisements at Disneyland. That's one that always sells. I've got 3 or 4 of them. I always buy that one, and I always run into that one. It's not a big mover, but 10 or 15 bucks. That's one of the better ones. And then the Haunted Mansion ones I seem to sell too. Disney overall doesn't sell horrendously well because they made so many of them. They made millions. But some of the booklets, and I've showed these in some of my videos. So if you check out some of the videos on my hauls, I have shown some of the ones that do sell. The booklets, there's some long elongated booklets. They're longer than they are, for a normal postcard, and they're actually with the receipt side, so you can see where you sent them to. Those usually sell a little better. Fantasyland sell fairly well too. Postcards, I mean, the typical things are what's going to sell. If you look up on eBay for postcards, there's a couple 100,000 up at any given time. The real picture postcards are almost always what's worth the most money on eBay. Almost always. And in any site you go to, that's the case. And then you've got Halloween, you've got Hold to the Light Christmas, you got Uncle Sam, political. Some of the advertising ones sell well, and then Pioneer era sell well too. Those are the ones that wouldn't be necessarily the vintage real picture postcards. Now there's some chromes, which would be modern day, like from the 50s and 60s, that can still sell for $500-600. But again, as I've said before, those are almost always California cards. California has a population of like a quarter of the country or some huge amount. I'm probably off on that. Maybe it's 20%. But California has the most population in this country by a long shot. And the majority of my sales of that kind of stuff is from California. So just keep that in mind. My first area I always look for is California, real picture postcards and things along that line. Santa Clauses will almost always sell. John Winch postcards will sell. In a typical John Winch is, $5 or $10. I know that may not sound like a bunch, but if you're paying $1 and you get a bunch of them, you're at least going to get $5 back for them after, all said and done. So, there's a ton of postcards that are worth money, but I would honestly stick to the ones that I discuss for the most part until you get the hang of looking at some of the other ones. Like some of the white border ones, you can tell the ages and which ones not to mess with by that. But I have my other video finished for my postcards, so I don't know if it's going to be this week because I've got some other issues that I wanted to bring up too. And I wanted to do the second part of listing because I've got that video done as well too. So, well, I've got a couple things to edit on it, but other than that, I've got other videos already lined up through next Wednesday. So I'm going to get some of those out there too. So just be patient with me and I'll do them as I get to them. So anyway, let's go back here and see what we got. Let's see here. Welcome, Nancy. Temecula. I'm not sure where that's even at. Long Island. I've been to Long Island as well too. Let's see here. Welcome, Chris. Glad to have you. Garage Flips. Glad to have you. Diane Clanky. We've talked a few times on here. Yeah, sales are going up now. I don't know how many people have said that to me. The video that I posted the other day on the apocalypse, I've had a ton of feedback, including multiple personal emails about that. There's not many people, that are saying negative stuff about that. So I have to assume that there's a lot more than just me that have increased sales. And it's not just a little bit. And I had another comment here from somebody talking about the sales. Sales means nothing without having an increase in profits. For me, if I'm increasing my sales by $2,000 or $3,000 a day, 80% of that is profit. So it doesn't really matter. On average, right this minute, my profit margin has gone through the roof for the last year and a half. My costs into the items I'm buying are getting cheaper. Almost constantly, I'm paying less and less for these bulk items. And I have no idea why people just aren't catching on, but I am paying less now. And as I said, the trends in postcards, the price of the postcards and some of the Victorian cards is going up 10, 20% each and every year. So what's happening is I'm getting a higher profit for what I used to sell a year or two ago, sometimes 20, 30, 40, even 50% more, like some of the Tahoe cards. They're just unheard of 2 or 3 years ago at that price. So right now there is a boom on postcards. I promise you that is what's going on. Across the board, postcards have been selling like hotcakes. They're just all over the place and selling postcards. So, even if it's, $10 postcards and I'm selling 20 or 30 of them, constantly, I'm not going to worry because it's huge profit margin. And as I said, right now, my profit margin, hand to God, is about 80% or higher on what I'm spending on it and get my return from that. And again, as I said, my profit margin has gone up. And this is a perfect example, just addressing the fact that the increases in average sale prices across the board in postcards has gone up 10 to 20%. You can look it up yourself, look at some of the sites, do a couple of Google searches on highest price for various years, and you can find information on that as well, too. Not just my personal, records, but across the board. So, postcards have just gone through the roof, and I've seen tons of people tell me the sales are up. And, even on clothing, I've had people tell me sales are up. I've sold some jackets. I sold bunches of denim where, as I said, I do have some marked down. but I've sold a bunch of it. We're going to be clearing out some clothing here. I've emptied a whole bin in the last 2 weeks. One of these bins of clothing is gone in less than 2 weeks. So, I'm, happy about the markdowns, and I'm not messing with too much more clothing, as I said. Clothing's turned into a rat race. It wasn't a few years ago, but nowadays there's just so many people trying to make it rich doing clothing, and it's almost an impossible market to expand on because of space and other issues. You're forced to get a warehouse if you're doing clothing, and you want to get to the state where you're having 10, 20, 30, 40,000 items up. I could not do that where I'm living now. It would be impossible. So let's go back over here and get some more questions here. Welcome, Penny Day. Let me see here. Thanks, Kim. Let's see here. Hey, now, don't get me in trouble there, Macaroni May. Yeah, I Century City or something like that, Rock and Roll ReSale. I'm not sure if that's technically the name of it. It's been years since I've been to California. I want to say the last time I was in California was, probably 15, 16 years ago. I'm not a big traveler these days. We hit our 3-state area, and that's really about all I go to anymore. I used to fly across the country constantly and as a regional, and I'd fill in, and I hate traveling, especially now that I have kids and everything else, and they're older, and I don't want to miss that time, and I don't need to travel anymore. So for me anyway. Yeah, Whittier, as I said, it was an industrial area. I stayed in a decent hotel, but it wasn't a pleasant experience in Whittier per se, but I did enjoy my time in California. I haven't been to the Redwood Forest yet, but that's where me and the wife plan on going hopefully in the next few years here. It's one of the last little checks on our things we wanted to do in this country before we die, our bucket list, I guess you could say. Let's see here. What kind of scanner? I don't use a scanner for anything. Photos are so much quicker, and I also can clink them onto a SD card. That is the best bet for garage flips. I don't use a scanner. I've got a couple of them. I got flatbeds. I got drop-throughs. I do not use them. I've got a video you can see where I just posted on how I take photos. If you haven't seen my videos, I've got almost 200 different videos up covering pretty much all kinds of aspects of my business. But photo-wise, it's so much easier to take an actual photograph and quicker. It's like a second or two to take a photo with the camera we got. And I use a little trigger, which you can see. I've got links to how to get everything that I use. Any of the links that I have are honestly what I use religiously. I don't put anything in there for trying to get, commissions or anything other than what I personally use. And I personally recommend everything that I use. We've done it with the scanner before. It just wasn't practical. Even if you're gang scanning a whole bunch at once, I get the 600 DPI or better with the camera. It's a second or two per side. I gang shoot a whole bunch of stuff all at the same time. If you haven't seen the video, just check out the video. The quality's not so good because, as many people have said, I work in basically a little dungeon here. There's not a lot of space for lighting is my only drawback. So unfortunately, it was a little harder to show you the video and still have proper lighting. Regardless, I tried it every different way I could, but again, I don't use a scanner at all. And I've had people tell me it's quicker. I would beg to differ any day of the week from the way we do it. Plus, then, as I said, we'll scan sometimes maybe 1,000 different photos or 1,000 different cards in the same day, and we'll put them on separate different chips, so I won't have to transfer. And then anybody can just grab. I don't actually have any cards sitting here, but somebody can just grab a pack of cards with the chip, or a pack of this, or a stack of books, or whatever they're listing, a stack of records, grab the chip, and then off they go. So that just works so much easier. It's a set routine. Anybody here can do, a couple hundred photos in an hour easily. And that's anybody here. So, let's see what else I got. Penny Day, do I have a set of cards that you can purchase? I can sure as heck throw one together. In like 2 more weeks, I'm going to be selling my new postcards. So you can, wait, or you can, I'll tell you this, I'll post some stuff up on that as I get one together. I'll throw out a lot. I don't like to sell too much off of one of the major sites. It's just easier for me, and I don't have to worry about taxes as much if I'm not selling it on another site. I do have a page of mine, and I do have some, .coms already saved under our name, but personally, I'm not going to run and do those right now. I'm not looking to expand out too much into that area. We're mostly interested in talking about eBay and doing our own artwork stuff. I'm not looking to try and sell you a service. So I'm not going to do any sites like that right now. But I will put something up on eBay, and I will give you an announcement, and you can buy it straight off eBay if that's okay with everybody. Because I have sold quite a few cards now to actually subscribers. And again, I thank all those folks who've got some. And I'm going to try and, give opportunities for people to get a free one, maybe every week or two here, I'll give a couple away. And as Halloween comes down in October, I'll be giving away probably a bunch of cards a week, just for those of you interested in some Halloween cards. But anyway, let's go on here. Let's see here. I keep getting behind. Sorry, folks. I'm way behind. Chris, yeah, there are scanners out there. Again, as I said, if you look at the video and see how quickly I can take a photo, it's literally like a second or two for any side of anything. I can take both sides of a card. I only take two photos for any item, usually paper item I do. So I can literally take both sides of a card in less than 5 seconds. So I just don't see much, in getting the scanner out. And then the scanner saves to a laptop or to a PC, so I can't split it up effectively without having to go back in. This way, it's literally already where it needs to be on a card. Anybody can just then go ahead and grab a laptop or a PC station or something and then just list. There's no question, there's no, anything else they have to worry about. It's all together. I can stick the chip with the items and it doesn't get lost that way. So I'm not worried about which order things are in. They're all literally bagged and stuck together with posties on everything. And I've done it for 5 years plus, doing it this way without any issues. And it has sped up my time. We used to use a scanner. As I said, I've got a real nice one up here, a real expensive one that's for graphic wise too. And I don't use that. So anyway, let's see where we're at. Welcome, Michael Whalen. Let's see here. I used to sell at the local flea markets too. We used to do Mount Dora in Florida, for those of you who know what Mount Dora is. I believe it used to be like Mondays at like 5 or 6 in the mornings. We used to go out there, but I used to be a vendor out there. I had a license, and you're going back 20 years when I did that. We always did well. I always made money on it too. So, well. Everybody talk about sales going up. Not just sales, profit. So let me get that straight. A lot of people, had some criticism about me talking about sales going up. Again, my profit margin is almost always 80% or higher. And again, this isn't some fantasy number. For those of you who are buying this cheap stuff, you can see the difference in pricing and how high the profit margin is on paper. And I get tons of it. I mean, I wish you could see literally how much I have in this building here. Paper is dirt cheap. So my expenses into it has gone down since I stopped buying clothing and stopped buying stuff that's not worth my time. I don't mess with $2, $3, $4 books to make a $2 or $3 profit like I used to do when I did FBA. I don't buy the clothing $6, $8, $10 a shot. I'm talking about paper that I'm spending a nickel for, or coins or little toys that I buy in huge, big bulk lots of. That's what I'm talking about. I've totally switched up what we used to do. So my profit margin, I guarantee you, is higher than most people. I'm sure there's people who are even, raking it in above and beyond what I am with some higher end like electronics and things. But for what I sell, my profit margin is massive. I don't know anywhere in any industry that I've ever worked in the real world, brick and mortar world, that has anywhere near an 80% profit margin like that. And this is profit. This is, after everything is said and done. That's what you want. You want the cheap stuff that sells very well and that you can routinely sell. And again, I don't care at all about sell-through rate. We had a $1,200 day the other day. Out of that $1,200 I sold, I had a $27 cost into the items that I sold for that $1,200. It was like $1,238 or something. Bonafide sales day, and 27 bucks was honestly the amount I had into those items. They were all paper, all cheap junk paper that most people just pass on by. So again, I can't stress enough how good paper is. So my profits have increased while my costs have actually dropped steadily, especially since I stopped buying clothing. I haven't bought any clothing in like 2 months now, other than a couple of hats and some things like that, but nothing, you know. Clothing for me, that was my biggest expense when I bought something, was in the clothing area across the board. So if I eliminate clothing, my profits have increased, my costs have went down. I have the same overhead I had before, so I again am getting a higher profit margin back, and that's the game here. That's why I switched up. I was a clothing seller. I sold video games. I sold books on FBA. I did what everybody else does, but realized very quickly that there is no way to scale that into a huge, inventory with massive sales because of the space. The minute you get a warehouse, you are sinking your costs. Your overhead goes up double almost immediately. So I'm into something that I don't have to worry about that. I may take up a little more of my house than I wished. I may end up giving up a garage, but I do not have to get a warehouse. We do have a separate building at my mom's house, which used to be my father's wood shop, which is full of shelved record shelves like this, just full from one end to the other, a couple 100,000 records, and one day we'll get to them. But, at this point, unless I want to go massive, which I'm not ready to do yet, I'm not going to touch them. We're going to do what we're doing, a little here, a little there, across the board. Let me see what we got going on here. Yeah, Chris, if you don't list as much, you're just not going to keep up there. When you list more items, your sales ranking, or your ranking on a search ranking, goes up. And you can look that up. You can look into eBay. You can look how it works. The more interaction you have, the more business and interactions and views and things like that you have on your page. If you're constantly listing, it actually increases your search standing on a search result in eBay. And everything that I've seen, everything that I've read, and everyone I've talked to will agree with that, especially even some of the folks at eBay who I've talked to. So again, I don't have any relationship with these eBay. I do call them a couple times a week. I call them about something, even just to clarify some issue, especially with some of the new changes going on right now. So anyway, I wanted to check on the buy box. So I did call them on the buy box issue to see where that was at, and see if they had any other information on the updates on that too, because they seem to be a little behind, but I'm not going to criticize them at all. I don't mess with stuff that would be in a buy box for the most part anyway. My buy box, as I've said in the past, is my feedback, in listing and how I do my listings, and our whole business in general gets me up to that, the buying spot anyway. So. Yeah, Diane, paper, as I said, paper is a ton of items. I mean, there's a ton of stuff to sell. It always goes very well for us. I have never had an issue selling any kind of paper, any kind. And that's most of what we sell. I think, I'll take that back. I sold the records this morning and a couple of magazines. I think I sold 2 8x10s. And then it was a bunch of postcards. And then I sold like 12 or 14 trade cards to one single person, all religious religious trade cards, and then I sold like 16 or so other cards, but almost everything was paper, and then the records. So yesterday it was like I think half of what I sold or went out in mail was like clothing, because I dumped off some. I marked it down way down. So anyway, let's go on here. Jerry, welcome. Yeah, as again, I keep hearing it, and I just, even with just the people I see commenting on here, there's enough to say that there is not a traditional summer for eBay for whatever it is. And, I honestly have to say, all these people who have been grumbling about eBay and all the changes, I honestly, sincerely, and fully feel that some of the changes they did are part of the reason. If you check, I do this quite often. I'll Google the titles of my listings, the first 4 or 5 words of one of my listings, just on an open Google search. I'll do it on a PC or one of my laptops that I am not logged in, and I've cleared off everything, my browser history, cookies, every single thing in there that can do any tracking on it. So it's a fresh search, and see where I fall. And a lot of the items are coming up on the first page or two on Google. So that's what you're looking for. So eBay has addressed that. And you need to do those kind of searches too on some of your items to see if you're using the right keyword. Keywords are essential for getting this to work right too. And where you put the keywords in on your title is important too. Get them always in the front of the title. Don't put them at the end. Don't put the unnecessary information in the beginning of your listing, especially for those folks who look and buy stuff off your phone. 20-30% of the sales eBay's quoting are now coming off of, phone purchases or iPads or something along that line. And the first thing you see in the title is what they're going to be looking at and being able to see, because it actually cuts it off at the end. And some of the longer titles will do that too, even on a Google search. So just keep that in mind. So you want to, make sure you're optimizing all your titles, to actually try and get them in a Google display search on the first or second page. You want to be in the top 20 of the items that show up on that Google search. There's ways to do it, and there's things like that you can do, but overall, that's what you're looking at. And I, honest to God, feel that eBay has addressed that. That was one of the things I was told they were working on, to get better search results, better, feedback, and better placements on Google searches. The Amazon stuff shows up on Google searches in the top 20 almost religiously for pretty much anything. And you can search. I've got the same items on some items up on Amazon, and same items up on 2 different store sites of my anchor store. So I've got a good grasp on where they display and how they display based on, the site, on which site they're on. And you can use some wording. Look at other people who sell a lot. That's what I do. I'll look at some of the other folks' listings. That's part of research. It's not just researching the items, it's researching practices. Just touch on this real quick, and I'm going to go back to some questions here. We still got plenty of time. I had some questions on some of my listings here. I know I've got some bad photos, and I've said this before. We've been up for 5 years. I've got items that have been up on eBay for all of that 5 years. Still, I don't take them down because they are good items. In the antique and collectibles world, you need to find the right person walking in. There are some items I pull down. I've gone through them. We search through them. We pick out, we adjust, we fix photos. So you're going to find photos on mine prior to 2 years ago that I did not change. As again, this is learning experience for me. So I've went in and I've searched the other people who sell what I do in category after category after category, and seeing, their ended listings to see what they're doing that I'm not doing, and checking out their prices versus my prices for similar or the same item. And that's when I changed to do the zoom in to the key part of the image for my very first listing. And that's why I stopped pulling off rulers in the very first photo in my listings. And that has worked. And that is the number one thing that has increased my sales across the board in anything paper, is the zoom in photo. And I'm not just talking about that as it's just some made up thing. That is honestly what has increased my sales in paper across the board on paper. The items that, again, this is a perfect example. If I had changed all those listings immediately, I would have spent weeks and weeks trying to fix the photos and adjust the listings. And I also use that, as I said, for, to compare the two. And obviously the ones with the close-up zoom-in photos sell 20, 30, 40% quicker and better than the ones who aren't zoomed in, who just show a distant shot of an item with a background around it. You don't want a background and stuff like that. Obviously, collectibles, toys, clothing, you have to have the whole item shown in the main image, or at least if it's like a t-shirt or something, zoom in on the artwork, the graphics on the t-shirt or the hat or whatever the case may be. Let's pop over and get some questions here, because I know sometimes I talk a little more and don't answer everybody's questions. Let's see here. Boy, we are getting quite a few. I guess I'm a little bit behind here. Let's see here. Chris, a $1 postcard or less, I have no idea. I would for first class postage, and then I mail it out from there with tracking for everything. It goes in a poly. I've got a video on how I wrap it. I go in big, thick cardboard, poly bags, everything's sealed into plastic. I have no clue how they do it. Their goal is they think they can sell them higher because they're starting out low. Back in the day, 8-10 years ago, the philosophy was that you would list something for 99 cents, and then there'd be a lot of attraction to that one listing. And this used to work that way. I can tell you for sure. That's what they're going on. They haven't changed their model, those people doing those dollar postcards, with how it actually works now. The best way to sell anything is as a bin, as everybody should know by now. So those people selling it are hoping for the big sale, hoping that one card will go through the roof. I have so much better luck with selling stuff as a bin than I ever do selling it as an auction across the board. Again, 8-10 years ago, it didn't used to be that way. 20 years ago, everything went in auction. Everything. I don't even remember if they had bin back then. It's been so long since, we started doing this. Back in the day, you could bid on your own auctions, believe it or not, and you could leave feedback, negative feedback for buyers back then. There was all kinds of things you could do that you can't do now. That's why I said change is good. So anyway, Those people selling the postcards for $1, they're just wasting their money, especially if they're including postage. And even if they're not, I would never sell a postcard for $1 unless they got in, 20,000 of them at a penny a piece. These are people hoping for the best. Just don't do the dollar postcards. Put them up for $9.99 as a bin if you're unsure, and just take whatever you can get. A lot of the items can be long-term hauls. You're going to hang on to a lot of this stuff. The thing is, it's a numbers game, and you get enough profit from each item. It doesn't matter how quickly they sell. I never, ever, ever worry about or even look at my sell-through rate. It does not matter. There'll be many other people that tell you that. It depends on what you're selling, though, of course. If you're selling clothing and what everybody else is selling, you have to have a good sell-through rate to keep money coming in. Otherwise, everything's just going to sit there, because clothing is turned into a long-term haul above and beyond what paper has. So anyway, let's see. Nancy. How to tell you they're old or not. Post a scan of the backs of the ones that I think they're deer, something that look like they're hand colored, and try and get me the closest, highest DPI you can of the face and the back. If there's any markings that are printed on the back of any of those, that would be the key, I guess. It's kind of hard to tell you how to determine a fake from a real one. I wish there was an easier way to do it, but I can't think of another way to tell you, unless you had something to compare it to. But post me some of the closest, best DPI you can in my Facebook group on those hand-colored prints you have, Nancy. Let's see here. Thanks, Jada Gypsy. Let me see here. Yeah, scanners are slow. I do not mess with scanners. Yeah, Jerry, I don't see any benefit on trying to lure people in your store with 99-cent cards. It just rings out to me that, you're not really up on what you're doing, maybe. I mean, I just can't see doing it. Back in the day, as I said, 8-10 years ago, you could get away with doing stuff like that. But nowadays, there's so many people, and if you look, the majority of every item up now in certain categories are bins. There's a reason for that. And I don't really, even if I'm buying something for my own collection or for whatever the case may be, I only look at bins for the most part. I don't like waiting anymore, and that's what most people are. Most people do not want to wait for the item. Even if they have to pay more, they'd rather just pay more, have it, be done with it, and not have to worry about tracking it down for a week, 10 days, or whatever the case may be. Convenience is another factor in this. So just keep that in mind when you see this kind of thing. Let's see here. Welcome, Tina. Working smarter is the key. Lining up whatever you're taking photographs on, line it up. Get yourself a system that works, and use that same system unless you find another way that can cut you time off. I've tried everything. I've tried scanners. I've tried everything. We have scanners even for 35mm slides, special photo scanners. I've bought it all. I don't use any of it. A light table and just the standard photograph procedures work the best for anything across the board. They're the quickest means you can do, and you can tie it to a chip. The chip is the thing. The scanner going across the planchette or the plate takes way too long for me. And again, even if you're ganging a whole bunch on there, and then by the time you flip it over, and the time it's taken to gang them all up there, I've already done 10, 15 cards. It's literally like 5-6 seconds to take one item, both sides of the item. And I use 3 photos for my listing, but I only have to take 2 because I use the same one twice. My main photo for the paper is a zoom in of the front of the card. So I'm only taking 2 photos, but I post 3. So just an FYI. Don't on paper, I never do more than 2. As long as they're 600 DPI or higher, you can zoom in and enlarge them on the screen so that they're larger than life. Just keep that in mind. 600 DPI or higher, you want to save them at. Let's go on down here. Welcome, Kenneth. Drop-down scan can work for you too. For us, I can do thousands in that same time as well too. And the chip is a big deal for us because I've got more than just one person list. 100 items, and then we'll line them all up so there'll be the chip and whatever items they're listing all together. And with Ganner, I'd have to sort them on a PC or sort them somewhere. It just wasn't practical. I've looked into it. I'm sure there's a scanner out there that takes a chip, but for us, it's just not convenient. It's not practical. The camera works so much better. There's no issues with it whatsoever. Um, I just find it a better use for us anyway. Jane L. I'm not sure on deadbeat bidders. I haven't had any issues. I almost always have a unpaid item case at least once a week. I never worry about it. I just file a report after 7 or 8 days, or my auto report thing goes into play, and I just let that handle it. And then I close them out, and then I relist it. No big deal. No money out. I never count my chickens till they're hatched. If the item's not paid for, I just pretend it wasn't even sold until it was paid for. No big deal. I never worry about that, honestly. Welcome Liberty for all. Yeah, I haven't heard the cat bidding one at all. Yeah, sales are up. Thanks, Larry's Treasures. Yeah, please hit the like button if you did enjoy the video. I can't answer every question, but I do try to honestly answer everything I can. Yeah, if your sales are going up and your profit's not going up, that is on you. My profit margin's the same for whatever I sell. So again, as I said, if I sell $1,000, 800 of that is probably profit or higher across the board. And that's just a perfect example. I sold in my last, what sold on eBay, I sold a $750 poster for watches. And I've got like $5 or $10 into that item, something along that line. So if that gives you any idea, I think everything that I showed you in that last video, I paid $1 or less for in any of the items that I have up. So as long as you're buying the same things and your sales are going up, your profit should never go down. As long as you're keeping up, you're doing your research, your profit margin should stay and float in the same general area. Give or take a 10% up or down is what I consider a normal swing in your profit margin, because it's going to depend on what items you have sold that specific time frame you are looking at. So just keep that in mind. Profits are what matters. If you've got, $1,000 increase in sales, but none of that is profit, obviously it means nothing. But for us, if I'm telling you I'm getting an increase, my profit margin does not change. So if I've got a $1,000, $10,000 sales increase, it's an $8,000 profit on average. So, and these aren't fictitious numbers or anything. You see what we pay for it. You see the items. Those of you who are now searching for it, you see how cheap they are and how quickly and how high the prices go for. So call it what you will. Clothing, I never have this luck in. So that's, again, why I've pretty much dropped off the clothing market. Yeah, if people can say what they want and share all the information on their bad sales, most of the people that I hear dogging on eBay and talking about, sales still bad are selling mostly clothing and sticking to the same things year after year after year. If something's not working 2 or 3 years in a row and you're not switching up, that's your own fault. And I had some other folks talking about, they've got to list 20 or 30% more items just to keep the sales going. Again, if items this year aren't selling as much or as high as they were last year, start switching up your merchandise. If I have an area that's going bad, I do switch it up. We'll change the pricing structure. I'll blow it out and move somewhere else. I constantly pick up new items or go into new avenues or new areas to find stuff or to look for stuff or to sell stuff. There's a ton of other items out there. I've got some, restaurant hotel supply items too that the item picks up, and they pick up in the summer. There's a lot of stuff out, and that's a good time to sell this stuff. You can buy it at auctions right now. Let's move on here. What do I do if the magazine has a musty smell, Tina? I actually talk about that in some of my videos. Wished I could remember which video specifically, but basically you can put it in a airtight bag with either coffee beans to start with. That's usually my first bet. Leave it in there for a couple days. After that, you can air it out outside, or you can actually shave off some ivory or spring. What's the Irish Spring soap? Shave it with what I use is like a peeler, one of the peelers, and I'll shave off the soap, put it in a sock and put it in the bag, and that usually gets rid of the coffee scent. Worst case scenario, if it's something, well, magazine wise, you can't do that with, but like a card or something, you can sometimes soak those in some like propylene alcohol, and that will pretty much kill any scent. You'll have to rinse it off and wash it afterwards. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but that's a last case resort. But for the magazines, again, put them in a bag with some coffee beans tied in a sock. The coffee beans should overwhelm the mildew smell. You might, this is a long process depending on how bad it is. If it's not very bad, it could be an easy step. Sometimes just the soap alone will get rid of the scent, and then air it out outside for a couple days if you have the ability to do that. That usually gets it. Usually I have a bunch that I do, but I personally stopped buying anything like that. You might have missed it, so I understand, but I don't buy anything that's musty, mildewy, or anything like that. I've had issue. I got bit by a spider. I've talked about before, a brown recluse. I've had major issues since then. I don't like to get near anything that could affect me. I don't do anything with mildew, mold, or anything like that. I've got some medical issues that will be with me probably till I die because of that spider bite. So I don't buy it. I stay away from it. Even if it's a killer deal and I might make a lot of money, I just don't mess with it. Just me. Again, it's nothing wrong with it. But you will have to list it if you can't get rid of the smell, that it does have a musky smell, and that will scare some people off these days. But anyway, Mount Dora, yeah, Mount Dora was always good. Yeah, I used to set up, used to have an art festival there too. There's a magazine called Sunshine Artist, which we used to do, and I used to set up at some of the art displays. And Mount Dora had the art display, and then they had the flea market on Mondays. And then they also had Renninger's, which is a extravaganza that was out there for like 2 or 3 days. I think it was Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. And it was a huge event. It was bigger than the regular Mount Dora by like 10 shot. Let's see here. Joanne, welcome. Joanne, go to the library and get yourself out a copy of Scott's. You can usually take those out. You can even find a used copy of it to at least give you the idea of what the stamps are, when they came out. For the most part, if you just bought a big book and it's got a bunch of stamps in it, most of the stamps aren't going to be worth anything. Some of the pre-1900 ones will carry some value, especially the commemoratives like the Columbian Exposition or things like that. But for the most part, I only mess with massive collections on stamps because, again, most of the ones aren't worth a ton of money. But you can get a book from the library. Once you have the Scott's identification number, you can look those up on eBay to price them. But for the most part, if it's in a book, it's just worth selling as a book, I can tell you. I sell stamps, so I've got hundreds of thousands of stamps, and that may sound like a lot, but they take up one shelf. You know, it's not a lot of space. I've got them in books. I've got stock. Maybe I'll do a video just on stamps for you too, because I do a lot in stamps. Poster stamps sell very well, and most people pass up poster stamps. So maybe I'll give you a video on stamps as well, and give you like a shortcut bolo on how to make money on stamps, because most of the stamps you find aren't worth a ton of money. And there's even a ton of money to be made in the merchandise and the price guides, the vintage ones, and some of those items. I sold some, I bought a huge stock of stamp stuff. I filled up my van. This was a year or two ago. And some of the higher priced items in there were 1940s, how to tell fake items, fake stamps from real stamps. And I sold some of these little tiny booklets. They were just like 20, 30 page booklets for like $150 and $160 a piece. We made more money on that than we did on all the stamp stuff put together. So, you know, it's not just the stamps that are worth money. I'll do a video on that. In fact, let me write that down here just so I don't forget. That way we can show you some bolos and stamps, because that's another area. And there's a lot of areas that I sell in that I haven't even touched at all on yet. I mean, like paperbacks and things like that. And they're not something that you would look into as a normal book buyer, but I do sell paperbacks, you know, quite routinely. And I've sold paperback books sometimes into the hundreds. Somebody will look this up, but there's one Stephen King that it's worth more as a paperback because that is all it was issued at for the first edition. I'm not going to give it away, but if somebody wants to look that up and email me, I will send you a card too. Macaroni May, you're out of that one because I've got you one going out tomorrow, but I'll let you go up on next month's one though if I do have another one. So if anybody wants a free card of my artwork signed and with a sketch on the back, I will mail it out free to anybody who can tell me what the Stephen King book is. You have to email me that. Go ahead, go to my About Me page on my channel and email that book title, and we'll go from there. Let's go on here. Let's see here. Yes, please hit the like button. I appreciate everybody watching, of course. Do people buy old advertisements from magazines? Welcome, Reseller Rockefeller. Yes, you will see that in there all the time. The older the magazine, the better. If they're, most of the time they're called print ads. If they're early, if they're just magazine ads, they're just magazine ads. But what are the best items to sell are like 1910 quack medicine, just little cutouts of the magazines. I buy junk ripped up magazines that are pre-1910 or before in big stacks for almost nothing. I'll have to show you some next time, the next live video, or I'll do a video here and I'll show you some of this on what to do. And again, when you do these, do them right. Don't use scissors. Get yourself an X-Acto blade and a cutting mat and cut them out properly. Cut them out square so they're not jagged or anything like that. But I sell print ads all the time. A couple a week, every single week of the year, I sell print ads. If I list a bunch of print ads up, 100, 150, I'm going to sell a couple immediately that same day that usually pays for it. And talking about profit margins, those print ads that you're putting up sell for a huge amount of profit, because most of the time I buy them from a ripped up junk magazine that I don't pay much more than a nickel or a quarter for. When I buy them in a big stack, and I'm talking big stacks of stuff at a estate sale or something, this is the stuff that's in the basement. This is the stuff that's in the attic. This is the stuff that's in the garage that nobody cares about because they're all ripped up. I'll buy them and I'll cut those puppies up. Sometimes, in this lot of magazines, I'll get hundreds of in fact, maybe I do have some here. Here's some right here. Speak of well, let me take some out so you can see. These are print ads. This is just bags of this stuff that I've cut out of everything. So talking about print ads, there's so much stuff that I have not covered on my channel yet that just is immensely profitable. Print ads. There's each one of these has, I don't know, maybe there's 100 in this one here alone. You can see it's just packed. These are packed with these. Again, packed with these. There's 1,000 pieces of paper here to sell in this one bag. I've got 20 or more bags like this just sitting down here with stuff just like this. And that's not counting cards. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff in here. And labels, everything like that. This is out of a cutout right here. I mean, it just depends on what it is. The print ads always sell for us. The quack medicine, the crow up here, these always sell. I sell every one of those. I mean, this is just loaded with stuff in here. There's maybe 100 or more in this one package. I maybe have $1 or $2 into this. These are from a couple stacks of magazines that I paid almost nothing for. So if you're not buying print ads, vintage ones, they got to be pre-1910 for the most part, or you're selling advertisements that someone's going to frame, and those would be what you do with the magazine ads. Those are going to be framed for the most part. I sell the back covers. If you get a bunch of National Geographics they're trashed out magazines, usually the covers have Coca-Cola on the back, and I'll cut up 10 of those and I'll sell those for $27.50 for 10 back covers, just the back covers from National Geographic. And that's usually what I get for them. They usually sell in that price range. I usually don't keep them in stock more than two list cycles. So for 2 months, I'll usually sell stacks of those. So, and you can do that with other ones. If you can't sell them individually, you can sell a stack of like 1940s or 30s, like car ads or 10, because of the, you have 12 photos. That way I can blow up one and I have one to play with at the end. Let me see here. Again, I keep getting lost on how many. I've got a lot of questions still here, it looks like. Yeah, the baking soda can work to some extent. The coffee works so much better from what I have seen. The coffee or bar of soap. Baking soda can work. Coffee and the bar of soap are way cheaper too. You can buy the baking soda in a big 5-pound box, which we do use that for some things too. You can wash some in baking soda and that will get rid of the scent if it's clothing. I've done that in the past too. How many items do I list daily on average? Couple hundred probably on average, Monday through Friday. Sometimes obviously not as much. It depends on what we have up. Let's see. eBay versions of Amazon Prime. No, I have not had any response on that. I do know that overseas, like in England, you can do a set price. Fee as many listings as you want for free free aspect, just like Amazon has. So, I'm saying that because I've heard the grumble now, and I've heard it from somebody at eBay as well too, who heard that in a conference that they were at. So, it may just be a rumor, it may just be nothing, but they are doing it in England. So that leads me to believe that they are seeking out other basically pricing models to see if it'll work, especially trying to get similar to Amazon. Now, if eBay does have issues and their sales do go down, which I don't see, they might try it, because that would flood eBay with a ton new items. Everybody who thought, oh, well, I didn't want to list this or list that, they're going to be listing everything they can think of, if it's free and you're only paying a one-time fee. That's what I heard the grumbling at. That's what I heard talk about. Again, it may not happen, but there's been a lot of talk, and they are doing it in other markets right now as we speak. The UK is a perfect example. I've talked to at least 3 people who have told me that. So I believe that to be the case. Yeah, muscle car ones can go too. Yes, that is definitely true. Let's see here. Yeah, clothing is very saturated right now. Welcome, Peddling Profits. Welcome, Treasure Experts. Vintage cookbooks, I just talked about that. That is a bolo. I mentioned and called that out in the miniature book video that I have up. I do sell a lot of vintage handwritten cards of recipes from the 1870s, 1880s on their own even. I sell trade cards just because there's recipes on the back in some cases. So, vintage cookbooks do sell, and that is a bolo, especially when you buy a bunch of them for $1 or $2 a piece. And that's usually what I pay for my books, is usually on average $1. And that's usually the price you can get them at a auction if you're buying in bulk. So just keep that in mind. No, I would never do free shipping on anything. And yes, the zoom in is a game changer for me. I always have an increased sales in the zoom in. And again, as I said, I haven't fixed all my prior listings. I still have 119 I tried to fix this past week, but we've been so busy. I haven't even addressed any new list or any old listings to get the zoom in going on any of those. So, the zoom in works. I promise you, it works for us across the board. The minute we did that, those sales just started increasing. And like the old listings, the ones that we've had up for more than 2 years, whatever, and I mean whenever I fix the listings and do zoom ins and change those from distance shots to zoom ins, and I've done that in a video. I've actually shown you in a video. So if you look back on the how-to playlist, you'll see that. I have immediate sales from those items, even though they sat for all this time. The minute I fix the photos, boom, I start selling those again. So that's why I'm not taking anything down other than just like some trash items that I listed maybe my first year that I didn't think was worth much. I've researched pretty much everything these days. So even if it hasn't sold in a long time, it's going to sell at some point. Or I may even like bulk it into a bulk lot just to clear some things out sometimes. But I don't do that very often, and I never pay eBay for any of the promotional or promoted listings. Even the 1% I won't do. I'm not going to give them any more of my money. I don't need to right now. I'm not hurting for sales, so I'm not going to offer up any more of my income to eBay, 1% or not. I know some people say do 1% on everything you own. It may work for some people, but for me, it's just not worth my time or hassle. So. But again, no free shipping. Everybody pays for shipping who buys from me. Everybody. Even if it's a 99-cent item, which I don't really sell, but even a $3 or $4 postcard, they're paying the $3.50 for first-class shipping. The buyer pays shipping. And I have not had any decrease in sales. We've done it this way for years. We used to, put free shipping on some of the clothing items. We stopped doing that, and I still don't have any issues with selling items. No free shipping. Do not do it. You will not see any difference if you stop doing it. Yeah, buy it now too is always the best. As I said, clothing is so saturated, I won't even mess with it. Okay, so I mean, just don't take that as gold, because your experiences may be different. I know there are people who do sell a lot in clothing, and again, I'm talking from my own experience. So what I say may not work for you. So I am not the end all for everything. I can tell you what I have done and what has helped my business. What you do with that information is going to be on you. But I can tell you for a fact, when I'm telling you this stuff, it has actually helped in what we do. All you got to do is look at my listings and you can see what I'm talking about. The zoom ins I do on everything now. I wouldn't do them on everything if I didn't have some massive sales increase. And that's what I'm having. And if you look at the same items I'm selling as other people are selling, my prices are selling for higher because of how it is presented. The same thing goes for Amazon. If I'm doing it, zoom in on eBay, I'm doing it zoom in on Amazon too. So, or whatever site I'm doing it on. The same with the records. Records are always zoom in. I never do a broad shot out at most records these days at all. It's just not worth it. Everybody knows what the vinyl looks like. So almost everything is a zoom in other than clothing and some of the toys. Yeah, 2 photos, zoom in for the third one. Yeah, Nancy, just get a close-up of those and go from there on the book plates. Yeah, 10 to 20 items in clothing is good, Pamela. It just depends on how much you have up and what the profit margin is on that item. Again, clothing can work for people too. It just depends on how you want to scale that up. Scaling is your problem in clothing. Scaling from working out of your house is almost impossible in clothing just because of the sheer quantity of space it takes up to have 10,000 pieces of clothing. You're going to fill your garage and part of your house no matter what, and you won't have anywhere near the amount of items you can get up if you're doing smaller items like us. I would never fit this stuff in here, this amount of stuff, if it was clothing. And I would have never been able to get as much stuff up as I have with clothing because it takes so much longer. You're doubling or tripling the amount of photos you take. You're doubling and tripling just the time it takes to rearrange and move and put the clothing on your dummy or your mannequin or whatever you happen to be using. It just takes more time. You got to do measurements for the most part. I don't do much with measurements, honestly. I have a set form I send out when somebody asks for measurements. I don't usually worry with that. I try to only buy certain types of clothing that don't need measurements for the most part anyway. Mostly jackets, coats, and standardized shirts or shoes or something. Do I think postcards will get saturated? On the contrary, at this point, I mean, there's so many different types of postcards that were made. This question was, let me see here, Diane. I don't think so because honestly, my profit margin on postcards has gone up. The prices that postcards are selling for has gone up religiously year after year after year after year. Now, in 5 years, there could be some bubble and it could burst, but right now I'm raking in every dime I can. If that happens, then I just move to some other merchandise or I start selling something else, or I'll figure another way to do something else. That's all there is to it. I just move on if something stops selling, or you have to adjust the way you do it, or you have to adjust pricing. So right now, I don't see any oversaturation in postcards. Again, the last 4 or 5 years show me right now that anything's happening in postcard is that it's increasing. The market is getting bigger, either by people purchasing more or literally by the price that they are selling for has increased. So overall, postcards have gone up across the board at 10, 20, 30% year by year. I would not worry about postcards, at least for the next couple years, the way they're looking now. So let's see here. Welcome, Sublime 90. Let's see where we at. Scott, if you haven't started selling, I mean, I procrastinated going full time for a long time, and I could be kicking myself for all the time of my life I wasted working for some. Yeah, Kenneth Chapman. Again, smalls. I make more money on that than anything. My sales are through the roof right now. Profits are through the roof right now of those sales. So anyway, again, there's another example. Everybody I talk to, the majority of the people I talk to, 80, 90% are having a massive sales increase. Again, I don't talk to as many people who sell clothing because apparently they follow other people, fine, whatever the case may be. But this is where it's at. Clothing saturated. Anybody who can't see that, anybody who can't go to a store and see the fights over clothing and the bin fights and the clicks and all that at the bin stores and stuff, it's just not worth my time or hassle anymore. Yeah, I stay away from all the ordinary clothing. I don't buy jeans, shorts, shirts, or anything like that hardly, unless it's something really good. I don't even mess with Tommy Bahama for the most part anymore either. Again, it's just I don't really buy any clothing anymore, but I haven't messed with any of that for a while. Lewis and Riley's treasures. I mean, a DSLR camera is what you want. If you're going to take photos, the camera I use is a Nikon D5300. It takes up as close as I can get, it'll take up quality photos. It blows my scanner away, which is an art scanner. It's a special one for line art and regular art as well too. It's not, just a cheaper one off the shelf. It's something I bought extra special. The camera is what I use for everything. It does better on it across the board. It just is so much easier to mess with. Plus, as I said, it goes onto a chip. So again, whatever works for you is fine. But for us, we have multiple people listing, so I have to be able to separate everything without spending time on a PC. I pull out a chip out of the camera. It goes with whatever we took a photo. I slide another chip in, and we start taking photos again. And we just keep repeating that process throughout the day. Yeah, Tina, I said, yeah, you can miss stuff like that. It's easy to miss sometimes. So especially if the whole house smells like that and you're in a estate sale. But as I said, try the coffee. You can try the baking soda. You can try the soap. Those are the best bets you can use. Coffee usually kills it for us anyway, but you do have to get rid of the coffee smell then too. Do I mess with old maps? Yes, I do. I've sold some maps from the 1500s. I've sold some maps from the French English War and, the 1580s, 1600s era. Hand-colored maps are usually what I mess with. I'll buy geography books even from pre-19 or pre-1870, and I'll cut out the hand-colored individual maps, and I'll sell those individually. And I make a lot of money on those. Those are what I do the most in maps. I don't buy any of the big rolled ones, and I do run into those, like the big school ones, just because of shipping issues. Anything that I can't fold or roll in a smaller size, I don't mess with, because once you hit some of the long, tall maps that you have to roll, you're over the limit, and you have to pay the extra $10 for shipping, or it can't go USPS anyway. So let's see here, where we at. You're welcome to post some stamps in there as well too. I'll be looking at the requests, maybe not first tonight. We still are going out to eat, I think, tonight still, but it'll be by the morning. I'll accept all those who sent a Facebook request. Again, the Auction Professor on Facebook. I do what I can to answer any questions on any items that you do have, but you're welcome to join that as well too. Peddling Profits, yeah, I sell any of that stuff. Old book plates can sell. I cut apart books all the time. I've got a whole stack from a Tarzan collection I have over here. It just depends on what they are. The older, the better. The engraved, actual tip-in engravings are usually the best for stuff like that too. But I cut up anything. I don't care what it is. I have no problem, and I have no hard feelings about chopping up a book, a magazine, a newspaper, anything, no matter what, if it makes profit. This is a business, and that's how I keep it. A business means I'm just going to cut up whatever I want. I don't care. I don't care if it bothers people or not. That's how I do my business. Let's see. Let's see if I can catch up. Yes, thinking out of the box, thinking about new stuff. Well, you got to send that, Scott. You got to send it. Email, and I will send you a card. Yeah, I'm reproducing maps. Some of them, there are no copyrights, so yes, you can reproduce them. Copies of the maps, though, do not sell that well that I've seen. I do sell on Amazon as well, too, and I do sell paper items, collectibles, trade cards, postcards, whatever the case may be. It all sells on Amazon. I have been on Gated in collectibles, vinyl, vintage vinyl, and the whole works, too. I just applied for another ungating the other day just to be ready for Christmas, and I've already been approved. So I've got toys, CDs, the whole works on Amazon. So I just don't mess with a lot of like magazines per se on Amazon. I don't have as much luck selling magazines on Amazon, but everything else is usually fair game. Let's see here. Yeah, vintage handbags do well as well, too. Welcome, Liz, for a day. Yeah, you got to watch out with Gucci bags and stuff for those of you who've seen that. There's so many fakes out there. 99% of the Gucci and all those new stuff are all fakes. You got to know what you're doing, and you have to have them authenticated. You can actually get yourself in some trouble for selling fakes, even if you didn't know it. So just keep that in mind. Jordan, Nelly, sheet music can be good. A lot of the religious isn't that quick of a seller. Those are probably something you need to sell in bulk. It depends on the topic specifically, though. If it's like revival type music, some of that will sell as well, too, especially 1920s, where it goes into like the hillbilly country religious Christian music. That does sell. And photo slides, I sell a lot. You can see those in most of my videos. I do. Let's see here. And we do sell, we do have sold vintage clothing. I do buy higher end stuff too, but I don't look for anything specifically. I stick to what you see, the paper, the oddball collectibles, and, the one-offs, the scarce items, things like that. So paper is the bomb. Paper is what we sell. I'm going to be getting off here in just a couple more minutes. We're running close to the end here. I know it's supposed to be an hour, and I always seem to run longer than that, but that's fine with me. For us, I have pickers, so I don't really have to do much sourcing anymore these days. We have 9 now. I used to have 8. I've picked up another one. People call me these days, and I don't really mess with much else. If somebody can't get to a specific sale or an auction, I may come out of the woodwork and go to one. But for the most part, I have no worries right now about getting anything. This is my peak time for buying. I buy a ton of it, and everybody else is listing while I'm purchasing. So source wise, if you're finding tough time to source, estate sales are the best. Live local antique or collectibles auctions, flea markets are really good. It just depends on what specifically you're looking for. Around here, Savers, we had 2 Savers. They both closed and went out of business. All we have is a couple Goodwills and a Salvation Army or something, and then some mom and pop thrift stores. So there isn't a thrift store option around here. The closest bin store for us is Columbus, which is 3 hours away. It's down by Hocking Hills. So if you know the area, Hocking Hills is a ways from up here in Lake Erie area. So I don't mess with that. We do sell pottery and glass. I do sell that on Amazon, believe it or not, at least some of the newer items too. So I try not to mess with anything too big anymore these days because it's just not worth my time. And I can fit so much easier and so much smaller stuff in small areas. I mean, let me show you another tote just to give you an idea. There's 2,000 cards just in this bin. And again, I've got bins of this. I mean, and I'm talking bins. I've got probably 20 of these sitting around here just full with stuff to list. And that's just the ones that have been sorted, and I buy it in bulk. I buy, sometimes a couple thousand cards in one day and 2,000-3,000 records in one day, a couple hundred pieces of jewelry in one day, a couple hundred pieces of sheet music, boxes of toys. Bulk is what you want, and you want it cheap, of course. That's why I stick to the items that I sell, and I stay away from the other items that just has too much money into them. My costs for most items are $1 or less for almost everything I sell. That's why my profit margin is almost 80% across the board or higher. Most of my pickers don't watch the show. I don't know what they pay for that. For all I know, they're making a ton of money before it even hits me. I have no clue on that. It's a business. They know how it works. If they wanted to sell it on eBay, they are more than welcome to. I've even offered to help a couple of the pickers set them up, and they're just not interested in it. Most of my pickers are older folks. They don't care about it. They like the aspect of sitting around at a flea market and talking to people, getting a hot dog while they're there, and pardon me, but shooting the shit, pardon me. But that's usually what I see. They'll just sit out there. If I go there and I run into them at one of the flea markets, the places they set up, they're sitting there talking with 3 or 4 people every time I'm there. I think it's more a hangout thing or a hobby, especially for some of the folks that are in their 70s that sell to me. I think it's just something to do. I mean, there's a couple that look on. One of the guys I buy from what I understand was banned from doing sales on eBay. So, he gets what he gets out of the stuff, I guess. I don't feel bad about it at all, though. Steve Alcon Flips. Yeah, we're in Northeast Ohio, or North West Ohio, actually. I don't mind hiring somebody. I price everything. I source everything. Again, I don't have to go out and source. I just wait for somebody to call. Well, more like text me. I just get texts all the time, and I get texts while they're out buying stuff to see if I'd want it. So, they buy stuff just by my recommendations. They'll tell me the price. They'll tell me what they want out of it before they even buy it. Especially the ones that set up at flea markets and stuff. They'll call me when somebody brings something in, and they'll send me photos all the time. So usually before I even get it, I already know what I'm getting and what the cost is and the whole work. So I don't worry about a lot of stuff like that. I don't have to worry about people listing. They list fine. I don't have to worry about, the photographs or anything like that. I'm fine with what's going on here. We're going to cut it off here in just a minute. Macaroni May, yeah, the wife goes out with me too. We go out together sometimes. I don't show a lot of those videos because I don't think that helps anybody at all. It's more like clickbait or getting somebody to watch my video. I'm not going to go garbage dumping or anything like that. I watch the videos. There's several that I watch that do stuff, and I watch other sellers on here too, more for entertainment. I don't learn a lot when I see some of the stuff going on, but nothing wrong with it, and I do enjoy it. So don't get me wrong, but I want to show stuff that's going to help people. I'm not interested in, doing a whole bunch of videos on me showing how I find stuff, because you're going to have to learn how to find it. You can watch me go out and find stuff all the time, but if you don't have the same type of stores or the same knowledge, it's going to do you no good whatsoever. What's going to do you good is knowing what to look for when you go out to the sources that you can find. So, I don't do the regular stuff that everybody else does. If I don't get as many subscribers or many views, I can live with that. I have 8 employees as well. Yes, I have 8 people, counting myself, that work in this business, and I have 9 people who call me on top of the 8 people, me counting. I've got our 4 family, me, my wife, my 2 sons, and then I've got 4 other people that work directly for me that are on my personal payroll. So there's 8 people that are paid through my personal store business on eBay, Amazon, Discogs, Etsy, and all the sources. And then on top of that, I've got now 9 people that have no relation, who do not work for me, that also call me to tell me when they've got something that I will go look at and buy from them. So just keep that straight. Again, there's 8 of us here working to list everything you see, take photographs, and do the whole works on it. So I do have 8 or 7 technical employees, plus myself is paid through this business. And then I don't pay my pickers anything other than for the items. Sometimes I pay a finder's fee to some of them, though, too. So anyway. Marielle, I've got videos on how I ship. If you look in my how-to playlist, you'll find several on how I literally pack 45 records up. I do them the same way every day. I've packed them up the same way for years. So I'm going to have to cut you out here. We've got almost on the 8:30 mark here. I got some questions here, and I've got some more issues I'll take care of in next week's, or I'll be throwing some videos together. Again, I'll have a stamp video. I've got another postcard video coming up. Let's see, I'm missing another video. I've got the postcard video for my postcards. I've got the second part of the postcard series that I have up, and I've got my listing video coming up too. I think that's really what I got going on all the way through Wednesday here. But again, I appreciate everybody being on. Hit the like button if you haven't. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't until now. And if you want to join my Facebook group, again, it's the Auction Professor on Facebook. It's the Auction Professor on Facebook. So again, you're welcome to join there and post photos on there. If you send stuff through my my channel email address, I do not open up any attachments or anything, and I do not click on any links. So if you want to have me look at something, you have to do it in my Facebook group. So anyway, I'll let everybody go for tonight. I'm glad to have you all here. We had a pretty good crowd. I didn't get to a lot of questions, so I will do my best the next time to not go off subject as much and try and answer as many questions. But again, have a good evening. Good to have you all, and hope you have some good sales this week. Okay, there we go.